Good evening, everyone. Thank you so much for joining us for our virtual FAFSA scholarship workshop. My name is Saisha Dale. I am one of the co-chairs of the Scholarship Committee for Concord Alumni Chapter on behalf of me, myself, and my co-chairs, Tandra Young. I would like to, again, welcome to our program. At this time, I'm going to introduce our chapter president. Her name is Bridget Herring Williams, and she's going to give you all the greeting for this evening.
Great evening, everyone, and thank you so much for your presence here tonight for our FAFSA and financial aid workshop. Thank you again to our scholarship committee for always bringing such wonderful programs in order to help the youth of our community prepare for college. By providing financial assistance, educational institutions give students the opportunity to reach and complete their higher education. At the same time, providing aid can also be a way to inspire students to become philanthropic once they become established professionals. So this is a great opportunity for parents, guardians, and students. I hope you all take lots of notes because you will receive a wealth of information from Timeka, our representative from CFNC. And thank you so much for being here with us again this evening to share this information. Again, to everyone, thank you so much for joining us and thank you for your attention.
So at this time, I would like to introduce our speaker for the evening, Timeka Ruffin. Timeka is employed by College Foundation Incorporated as a regional manager for the College and Career Information Service, College Foundation of North Carolina. She has worked for the foundation for 17 years, and she also has previously worked at public and private institutions in the areas of financial aid, admissions, and residence life. Timeka makes presentations and conducts trainings related to careers, financial literacy, and how to plan, apply, and pay for college across the state of North Carolina. So at this time, I will turn it over to Timeka for her presentation.
Thank you. Thank you, Ms. Dale. Good evening, everybody. Again, my name is Timeka. I do work for College Foundation of North Carolina. Thank you so much for joining. Hopefully this will be good information for you as you are beginning your whole journey, wherever phase you are in the process, whether or not you're a student or a parent thinking about going back to college yourself. We want to try to give you a little bit more information about the FAFSA form. I know a lot of people have heard that the FAFSA form has changed. And so I want to definitely highlight a lot of the things there and try to address any questions that you may have about it as we're kind of entering in this new season. Again, if you've never been on CFNC, definitely visit the website. A lot of the information I'm going to give you tonight is going to be on the website. So if you've never been to CFNC, definitely go there. Under our Paying for College section is where you'll find most of the information. We also try to make sure that we kind of gear you towards scholarship information as it relates to North Carolina. So definitely be sure that you go there to gather as much information as you can for free. So before we kind of talk about the FAFSA, I do want to I always like to start out with this because here in North Carolina is a little bit different than some other states. In our state, we do require that if a student is a resident of North Carolina and are planning to apply to any college or university in North Carolina, they have to apply for residency. So if you are thinking about going to college here in North Carolina, this is definitely a part of the process. It's not just an application that you verify that, yes, you are a resident of the state, but it's also connected to money, which is why I have it here, because it's very much connected to the FAFSA form, especially as it relates to North Carolina. So again, all seniors do have to do this. If your student is not a senior or if you've never gone through this process before, every student, whether or not you're a high school student or adult, you do have to verify your residency. This is the website that you go to do that. It's ncresidency.org. The earliest that we like for students to do this is definitely for high school students, is July prior to their senior year. There is an expiration date on sort of the residency number that they assign to you. And so you'll see here, this student has done it. You see they have been given a residency number. here at the bottom, that number does have an expiration date. So the earliest that we like for students to fill it out is July prior to the senior year. So again, keep this in mind because it is connected to money here. It also guarantees that you get in-state tuition at any of our public colleges or any of our community colleges here in North Carolina. We do have a new scholarship program here in North Carolina that will debut for students who are starting college in the fall of this year. It's called the Next North Carolina Scholarship. It is absolutely connected to that residency verification application, which is why I wanted to mention that, because it is an opportunity for you to at least be considered for this scholarship program through our state. We have several names, I guess, for different scholarship programs. But the name for it now is the Next North Carolina Scholarship. Families that are eligible or considered for these funds first are families that have a household income of $80,000 or less. If you do, you'll definitely be considered for funds through this program. We essentially give students enough to cover their tuition at a community college for a year, and students are able to get up to $5,000 at any of our state institutions in North Carolina. The application for it, again, is by filling out the FAFSA form, which we're going to talk about, and then also by verifying that residency. So that's really important. If you want to learn more again about this scholarship program, you can definitely go to CFNC, and we do kind of mention it there, but no separate application for it. Just wanted to make sure that you are aware that it exists. I do also like to make sure that families are paying attention, of course, to what is it you're trying to make sure you have enough money for. Always when you are considering a college or university, you want to either ask or go to their website to see what the cost of attendance is, right? How much does it cost to be a full-time student? If your student is planning to live on campus, what is the cost for food and housing? And obviously, there's other expenses that are related to going to college as well. The items that I have read, they're the most important ones because they're going to be the ones that you get a bill for. So I always tell students, families, if you are thinking about college, you definitely want to be sure you understand what is the cost for a full-time student living on campus, what those costs will be. There's even sometimes different fees for students who are online versus students who are on campus. So you want to be sure that you understand the difference between those costs and if there are any difference between those fees and costs for going living on campus or going to class in person versus going online. And then we also like to make sure that people are aware about the other expenses. Those are the ones that I have listed here. You're not going to get a bill for these items, but colleges do expect for those students and families to cover them, right? So once you register for classes, you have to purchase books for those classes. So that's a part of the experience, right? On average, a lot of students are spending about $500 to $800 per semester for books. It really depends on their major, program, how many books, how many different supplies you need for your major program. And then we also have transportation, of course, if you're planning to go out of state, if you are thinking about taking your car on a college campus, keeping in mind, what the cost is for parking permits and things like that. On average right now, parking permits are about $400 to $500 a year for most four-year institutions. For community colleges, parking is usually either free or at a very reduced rate. But four-year colleges, you do normally have to purchase a parking permit. And then you also want to keep in mind travel, right? It's not just as simple as I want to go to college in whatever state you're thinking about going to college for. There's definitely transportation that's associated with that. How often are you going to come back and forth home? What does an average cost for a bus, plane, train ticket look like to go from that college back home? I think a lot of students who go out of state do not take into consideration enough transportation costs and what that looks like. So I always encourage families to do that if they go out of state. And then also personal and miscellaneous expenses. This is just your basic living needs. It sounds basic, and I'm saying that they're basic living needs, but those items do add up. Colleges only provide the bare necessity, which just means they provide a mattress and a bed frame, and they provide a closet and a dresser, right? Everything else you need to live with. You need to bring yourself, right? So those expenses, most colleges kind of estimate today to be about $800 to $1,000 a year. It really just depends on the student, though, and how comfortable they are used to living, what those living expenses will look like for you and your family. but you do want to keep in personal and miscellaneous. And this is what I mean, again, by traveling out of state, what that looks like, because a lot of those students also don't consider not only just to travel, but also just to live every day. What does that look like? Is the cost of living different in the college or state you want to go to versus the state that you live in? All those things have to come into play. So you want to make sure that you understand that. And then, of course, all the colleges, if you live on a college campus these days, you do have to have health insurance. So all colleges will ask students for proof of that. So just be sure that you are able to show colleges that you're a student or that you are indeed covered under some type of health insurance if they are living on the campus. And then colleges also have health insurance plans that families cannot get if they don't have. But just wanted to kind of give you the kind of all the expenses that are related to going to college for a year and why it's so important to do the financial forms that are related to going to college, because there are different expenses that are associated with being a student. And then this is kind of just to show you some of the average costs for some of the colleges here. Obviously, it's going to be different depending on each state, but this is just the average for colleges here in our state, for our state schools. Of course, the community colleges are always going to be the most affordable option. And then private colleges are on an average about 47. They can definitely go more than that, but that's kind of what the average is. It's probably also the average for a student who is thinking about going to an out-of-state college. So that is something that you're considering. That's usually about the average for a student that's going out of state as well. So just want to kind of give you an idea of what cost of attendance looks like at different colleges, and also to kind of introduce that word to people, because most people are not aware of, they know that tuition and fees, they are familiar with those words, but the cost of attendance is kind of everything that it takes to go to a college, and college campuses will mention that a lot when it comes to giving you offers and things like that to come to their school. So always remember the word cost of attendance and what it entails when you're asking colleges about it. And then also like to make sure families are taking advantage of all the opportunities to pay for college. Financial aid is definitely an avenue to make college happen. But I also like for families and students to be creative in ways to make college work for you. We have lots of families today and lots of students today that are choosing to either transfer from a community college to a four-year institution, or they are choosing to take college classes while they're in high school. Most students who are enrolled in high school are able to get college classes for free. So students are able to take classes for free while they're in high school and have college credit going into those colleges that they're planning to go to for those four-year schools. That saves a lot of people a lot of money these days. We're starting to see a very, very much big increase in the numbers of students and enrollment at community colleges. We have had, I think in recent news, it kind of talked about four-year colleges have kind of gone down in attendance right now, but it's not necessarily gone down in attendance. It's just that more students are choosing the transfer option. So they're going to the community college first, and then they're transferring into those four-year institutions, which is changing the numbers of what a new freshman looks like or what a sophomore looks like. And I always encourage families to do this because it really, truly is a way to make college happen for you without spending a lot of money to do it. So always consider and take advantage of all the opportunities that community colleges offer. And then, of course, I do like for students, I know that you guys are definitely doing a great job. If you have attended other programs that they've done, I'm sure they've given you lots of kind of information about scholarships. I do like for students to stay on top of that process. It is something that really a lot of applications are for high school seniors, but there are opportunities, a few opportunities for students prior to their senior year. And of course, there's some opportunities while students are currently enrolled in college. But I do like for families too, and people to kind of break them down by categories. So as you're searching and looking for scholarship opportunities, be sure that you are looking in different pockets, right? Local scholarships are just that, local organizations, local churches, local businesses. Those are an avenue or pocket I try to make sure families are digging into, right? What are those opportunities in your area, your town? A lot of the times the high schools will have this kind of information because that's usually where people announce local scholarships. And so be sure you're kind of digging there. If you are thinking about going to college in state, And because we're in North Carolina, you definitely will want to visit CFNC because we do house all of the state scholarships. And so one of the requirements for a lot of our scholarships say you have to use them in the state of North Carolina. If you know that's something you're leaning towards, you should be on CFNC looking for scholarships there. And then, of course, all the different institutions offer their own scholarship opportunities. So students should always kind of use that pocket as something that they're digging into. Of course, colleges offer full scholarships, they offer partial scholarships, but there are other opportunities there too. So there are scholarships that may be $1,000 or $2,000. I know that the full scholarship is everybody's goal, but everybody can't get a full scholarship. Everybody can't get a partial scholarship. It does not mean that there aren't other opportunities for you on those college campuses. And so I do like to students be sure that they are digging into institutional scholarship opportunities. And then, of course, national scholarships are just scholarships that can essentially be used in lots of different places, but they may be based on a major or program. They may be based off of gender or nationality. They may be based off of an interest that a student has. It's so much easier today for students to look for scholarships. So I always tell people, from one, go to your app store on your phone, type in the word scholarships. There are apps now. The students can apply for scholarships through apps. And then obviously doing Google searches. I mean, there's no other place, right? The information is housed in such a compact way. So if I'm looking for something online and I know that the application is going to be online, I'm going to start looking online. So if I was, curious about whether or not Delta Sigma Theta offered a scholarship, I'm going to Google Delta Sigma Theta scholarships. It's going to pull up whatever scholarship opportunities are offered through the organization. I can find out whether or not they're local, whether or not there's a national scholarship I can apply for, different opportunities that you could do just by doing simple Google searches. Just think about yourself. If you know your major, I definitely would type that in. If I'm thinking about accounting, I'm just going to Google accounting scholarships. I might narrow it down and say female accounting scholarships based on myself. Or I might narrow it down even more and say minority female accounting scholarships. So there's so many different ways to do Google searches that it's really a lot easier today to do that. And that's why I encourage people, you definitely want to do that if your student is a senior. But you can start doing searches when whatever grade your student is in. If they are a middle school student, I have people that ask me all the time, like, are there scholarships for students who are not seniors in high school? Are there scholarships before they get there? Google it, right? So my students in middle school I'm going to type in middle school scholarships. If that word is in the criteria for the scholarship, it's going to come up. I could type in junior high school or freshman high school scholarships. People make this a lot more difficult than it is. It's a lot easier. I think it's almost too easy because people kind of go all around the way to do it. But the easiest way to just kind of do that search, and you can do that all day long, right? You can start doing searches all day long by using just simply doing Google searches. I do encourage people not to pay for scholarship applications. Should never have to do that. So if you get to a site and they ask you for money, that's a scam. Never pay for an application for a scholarship. So I always ask people to do that. And then I do have a lot of parents that want to be sure scholarship sites are secure. If they're doing Google searches, and Internet 101, right? You look for the lock in the address bar. So the way that I know that a website is secure is that before I even see their web address, I see that there's a lock in front of the name of the web address. That's how I know it's a secure site. It may not be secure when I first go to the site, but if I have to enter in my name and my address and that type of personal information, when I'm in that area, it should absolutely be a lockdown in the beginning of that website, wherever that section of the site is. And so just kind of be sure that you're looking for the lock just to let you know that it's a secure website. But other than that, you're able to do searches. And again, you don't have to wait until your senior year. I actually encourage people to do searches prior to the senior year because there is so much stuff going on senior year that scholarships become last on the poll of things to do. And so I do like for people to start doing that as soon as you are wondering what type of opportunities are available for your student. It's very easy to do that. We have our phones with us all the time. You can do Google searches sitting at a game, right? So again, it's very easy to do that. And then for tonight, we're talking specifically about the form that's needed for colleges. So I do like for people to be sure that they are applying for financial aid, because obviously that is an avenue to get an offer from a college. And so I'd like for people to do their part, which is again to research the cost of colleges, to see if they could take classes while they're in high school, do the transfer option if possible, apply for different scholarship opportunities. But then, of course, once you've done your part, then you want to see what the college can do, right, to help you in the process. And so that's what the purpose of the FAFSA application is. FAFSA stands for the Free Application for Federal Student Aid. It is available to families every year. This is a special year. And so they haven't changed this form in many years. We'll say a major change like this probably from what we've seen hasn't been done in maybe over 40 years. And so this year is different than all the years in a long time. And so that's why the process is a little bit different. But normally this application opens up in October of every year. And so usually if your student's a senior starting in October, you would start applying for financial aid for college. If your student is a senior this year, though, the application did not open in October, actually just opened the beginning of this year. And so students now are just being able to start the process to apply for financial aid. But again, this is a special year. It is going to go back to October starting in the fall of this coming up year. But this year, it's just started to become open. The way that people are able to fill out the application is to go to the FAFSA website. There's a couple of different ways. I haven't really decided on one uniform website to go to, but these are two different ways you can get to the application. Studentaid.gov is sort of the main website where this application is housed. You can go to this web address here, or you can absolutely just type in FAFSA.gov. They both take you to the same place. And so you're able to go here to start the application. Currently, they have out there the different schools years as options to be able to fill out. Right now, students have the option to fill out an application for 2024, 2025, and that's for seniors in high school now, or people that are interested in starting college in the fall. This is the application they're filling out right now. And then they also have the 2023, 2024, and that one is just for students and people that may be thinking about starting. Had you started in the spring, that would have been the application that you would do. Or if you're thinking about going to summer school, it's the 2023, 2024. But for people thinking about going to school, college in the fall, it's this 2024, 2025 application. If you're new to the whole process, you'll come to the website, click on Start a New Form. They do have on here a list to put on here what you need. A lot of people are kind of like, I don't know what I need for the application. If you go to the website, they have what you need. I have a section on there that says what you need to fill out the application. So that's where you would go and you click on that. They do have students and families to create an account. And if you're going through the process now, you're trying to do this application because it is new for this year, there has been lots of interesting things happening with the website. I always have to remind people the FAFSA is not an application that is just for a certain college. It is for all the colleges in the U.S. It is not just for North Carolina. It's for any college, again, in the U.S. I think they estimated there's a little bit over 17 million students and parents that fill out this application every year. So that's the reason why there's been a lot of errors and websites shutting down at certain times, because there are millions of people, right? We have to start thinking this is not a local form. This is a big form. And so millions of people are trying to complete this application. So there has been lots of issues with it when it first opened. And they're kind of trying to figure it out as we go. And so when you first come to the site, they'll have you to create an account. What we do see is right now is there are some people that they create an account, but it tells them that their account is not verified. When you're creating an account, it's just like creating a username and password for a website, right? For any website, you have to go in, put in your information, and that's sort of your way to get into the application. For this application, a student has to create an account, or they call it an FSA ID, and at least one of the parents in the home has to create an account. So both of these parties have to create an account. Again, right now, though, there's people having issues, so it may give you a message that says you need to wait 1 to 3 days before your account is verified. There's nothing you can do but wait until your account is verified before you can proceed. But on a regular basis, you would just create an account, and that would be what you would use to get in and out of the application, right? So it's a very important thing. The difference between this one and other websites, again, is that the student and the parent in the home would have to create an account. Now, if I have 2 parents in my house, both of my parents do not have to create an account. It's just one of the parents in my home needs to create an account, and then of course the student needs to create an account. But it's going to be very important that both parties create one because it is needed to complete the application. Just to show you, if before you go to the website, or if you haven't been to the website before and you want to see what's needed, these are all the things, the primary things that are needed to complete the application. I mentioned that the FSA ID, which is sort of your account creation, that has to be done. There also has to be valid email addresses for these applications. And I want to say valid and kind of stress the valid part, because I mean, I know I go do websites and they ask for email. I might give them, I don't know, not my primary email, but I might give them some email account, or I might make up an email account, right? Because I don't want them to send me a whole bunch of stuff afterwards. This is not that site. You need to give them a valid email address. It's kind of been an issue also for people that are creating accounts, is they're giving these kind of bogus information. You need to give a valid email address, an email address that you actually use, that you would check on a regular basis. So the student needs a valid email account, and at least one of the parents in the home needs a valid email account in order to be able to create an account. All the information that comes from this website is going to be going to those emails, and that's why they're so important and why they have to be valid. I don't like for students to use, if they're a high school student, I don't like for high school students to use their email address from high school, because you're graduating from there. And in June, you won't have access to that email account once you graduate from that high school. So students need a valid email address, but it needs to be one that is not connected to their high school if they are a high school student. And then, of course, it's always going to be based off of the prior year's income information for senior families or students that are thinking about starting college in the fall. They're asking for 2022 income information, right? That's the tax season that we went through last year. If you have a couple of more years before you do this application, just remember it's always going to be the prior year's income information. So the form opens up in October this fall. They're going to be asking for 2023, this tax season we're about to go into, right? So it's always the prior year income. And so you'll be able to provide that on there. If the parent or the student didn't work, they will ask for any kind of benefits that that person may have received in that prior year. They will ask some parents a little bit of information about their assets, not the home that they live in, not retirement income, not life insurance. I'm trying to think about all the questions people ask us about on here. They will ask you some asset questions on the application. And at most families will probably get maybe 5 to 6 asset questions. It's not very overwhelming, but they do ask some asset questions. Of course, I ask about, a little bit about your family and the marital status of the parents. And most importantly, they'll ask students what colleges you want to have the information sent to. Students can now, on this new application, have their application sent to up to 20 different colleges. And so students can list up to 20 different schools. And this could be schools that they don't have to have been admitted to at that point, right? Most of the time when these applications open, which this year it was later, but typically, again, they open in October, the students aren't even sure where they're applying to, all the schools they're applying to at that point. They definitely don't know if they've been admitted to for a lot of students. But you're putting down schools that you are thinking about applying to, that you've already applied to, or that you may apply to later. You're listing all of those schools on there, and it could be a 2-year or a 4-year institution. And it can be, sometimes it can be different. I know sometimes people will ask me about the trade school. It really will depend on the trade school. They do have a list of different colleges that are available to send this application to. So if your student is thinking about a certain trade, you could do a search and see whether or not that college is in the list of colleges to have it sent to in the US. If it is not on the list, that means that they do not accept this financial aid application. But for most regular four-year institutions, community colleges, they definitely will be listed in the application. And then of course they do ask students about their citizenship status. Students, in order to do the application, they do have to be a U.S. citizen or an eligible non-citizen. So that's always a question that comes up right away. So people don't have to waste their time if they're not eligible to complete the application. So they do ask you about your citizenship status pretty much as soon as you start the application. Something that's new with this application is that they do now require people provide consent. In the prior application, there was always an option for people to be able to see if they could just transfer their tax information from the IRS to this application. It used to be an option. With this new application, it's not an option. They do have it on here that as soon as you start the application, they want you to give them consent to be able to get your information from the IRS. That's one of the reasons why this application is kind of named sort of the better FAFSA, right? It's because it's supposed to make the application shorter and easier for families to fill out. One of the ways they were able to do that is to kind of require that everybody gets their information transferred from the IRS so that all of those questions can be answered automatically. And you don't have to manually enter that information in. That was kind of what took a lot of people probably the most time to do the applications to answer some of the financial questions. But now they do have a consent form that people do have to approve at the very beginning of the application. Students are asked to provide consent. Now, most students do not file a tax return. They are aware of that, but they do want to make sure that that student didn't file a tax return. So students also have to approve and provide consent. And then, of course, one of the parents in the home also has to provide consent in the parent section that they can get their information from the IRS. You'll see up here, a person will just approve that they can do that. And that's how you're able to move forward. A lot of families aren't even able to move forward on this new application because they don't approve them being able to check to see whether or not they can get your information from the IRS. So that is an important step with this new application is to approve. I always tell people, I mean, they're just being nice to ask you. This is a federal form. They have your tax information. If they wanted to get it, they can absolutely obtain it. They're just being nice to ask you to approve them to be able to do that. So you would approve it so that so you can move forward on the application. Another big part of this new form, and I'm kind of just showing you some of the new parts to this new application because it's changed. They have added on here a section for students to kind of list their college and career plans, meaning like what grade level they're going to be when they go to school. So a lot of times, again, I mentioned a lot of students are getting college credit while they're in high school. They're going to early college high schools, they're going to middle college high schools. So a lot of students are graduating with credit now. And so because of that, students are confused on, am I a first-year freshman? What year am I going to be considered at this college? Now, at the end of it all, the college is going to ultimately decide what that student's classification is, right? The student is going to be sending that college their high school transcript. So they'll be able to see what that student's, actual year in college is. They would like for students, of course, if they're just graduating high school, to put first-year freshman. But if they want to put sophomore because they feel like that's what they're going to be classified as, sure, you could put sophomore. But they do have added a second question just to clarify. When students begin the form, will they have their bachelor's degree? And this kind of kills the whole idea of whether or not the student is a first-time freshman or not. They can just put, no, I will not have my bachelor's degree by the beginning of the fall or whatever that school year is. And that kind of clears the fact that they will be a first-time freshman. The other benefit, of course, of putting first-year freshmen is that you do want to be considered for first-year funds, right? There are colleges that have money that's designated just for freshmen. And so I always encourage students who are graduating from high school to put first-year freshmen just so you can be considered for first-year funds. Maybe freshman housing if it's your first time at that school and you want to be housed with other students whose first year. But again, the college is going to kind of decide ultimately what your classification is. This is just to complete the FAFSA. And they do their own matches within their system to determine what your real classification is going to be. And then, of course, students are also going to be, a lot of big question that we get from a lot of families is that can students complete this application by themselves? So the ultimate answer to this is if a student is under 24 years old, they have to have parent information on the application. That's the general rule. Not 21 when they get an apartment and off campus, not 22 and they got a job and whatever people say. I've heard all of them. If they're under the age of 24 years old, they have to have some type of parent information. However, there are exceptions to all of those rules. So students are asked questions to see whether or not they qualify to do this application without a parent. So there's different things that they're able to say yes to. If they're able to put a check next to any of these things, then they can do this application without a parent. If they can't put a check mark next to any of those things, then they will put none of these apply, and they'll be asked to provide parent information. So just wanted to kind of clarify that on who, what age do they have to be if they to do that. It depends on whether or not they have a, different situation. One of the big ones that we get a lot of is people ask about, they have a legal guardian. So there are lots of students who don't live with their parent. They might live with a grandparent or an auntie or someone else that is not their parent, and that person is their legal guardian. That's one of the exceptions to the rule, right? So I will click this person that I have a legal guardian, and then I'm not required to put any parent information on here. So just want you to be able to see this section. They've also added a little bit more in here so that you can understand some of the circumstances they have added in. They know that there are situations that are very different for students. Sometimes it's not safe for students to contact the parent, whatever their situation is. Because of that, they do have sort of an unusual circumstances section that they added to this new FAFSA that students are able to say, yes, I do kind of meet one of these unusual circumstances. Just know that once a student does check, yes, they, qualify for one of these unusual circumstances, the college is going to follow up and ask for additional documentation to support whatever it is that they are saying is going on at home. But this is also sort of an exception to that, being over 24 in order to do the application here. But for this scenario, you'll see the student put, no, this is not a situation for me. And then they're going to be asked about the parent. They do ask if parents are married to each other. That is something that students are asked. And then there is something that's new on this application where they will ask parents, where they will provide them with a wizard, a parent wizard. So a lot of times they know that family situations and dynamics are different and they change all the time. So they're going to ask them questions. Students and parents want to know which parent goes on here. Because I heard you say parents have to be on here, but we're not married or we're not living in the same household or whatever the situation is. Which parent does the student need to put on here? They do have a wizard where a student can put in their family situation, and it pretty much tells them what parent they need to put on the application now. However, the general rule is if there's two parents in the home, whether they're married or not, they have to put both of those parents on the application. If I'm living with my mom, let's say either because my parents were never married or they're now separated or divorced, then I'm putting on the form the parent that provides the most financial support to me, the student, right? A lot of cases, if that's the scenario, if I'm living with my mom, I'm probably going to be putting my mom's information on there because she provides probably the most financial support to me, the student. But again, you'll have the wizard on there for you to figure out which parent to put on the form. If the parents are separated or divorced, you'll have that option to be able to figure that out if you don't remember what I was saying to you about what parent to put on the form. And then, of course, I mentioned there's a school section, so students have the option to be able to put lots of different schools. Used to be 10 schools, so that's why this is new. For this new form is because now they can put 20. And then they will have on there, they'll ask students a little bit about their finances, basically just wanted to know if that student worked in that prior year. A lot of students may have worked, but they didn't file a tax return. So students may be asked to put how much they earned from working during that year. Most students are able to get that either from their last paycheck stub, or they got a W-2, or they can estimate, what they think that they made for the year. Once the students are done, there's not many questions. Again, this new FAFSA, it really is to try to make it better by, making it where it's not so many questions. The student gets to their section pretty quickly, and then they're able to sign and complete it. What I do know with this new form and this new application, there are people having problems signing the application. But that's okay. You will get the option to go back in and sign it if you weren't able to when you went through it in February, which is not long from now. But normally how it works is when a student completes their section, they just agree that all of the information is correct and they hit submit. And that's how it's kind of their section is done, right? Because this form, one of the major changes with it is that there were a lot of parents who did not want their students to see their income information. And because parents didn't want their students to see their income information, they created sort of a separation between the student's information and a parent's information. So now instead of like me just sitting down and we just kind of answer each section, there's now sort of a break between the student and the parent section. So after I finish my section as a student, it tells me that I'm finished with the student section, but I now have to invite a contributor, meaning like a parent, if I'm under the age of 24 and I don't qualify for all of those scenarios. If I'm able to do this without a parent, then I'm just done, right? I sign and submit it. But if I had to put parent information on here, I now have to invite my parent. I get something that looks like this, where I'm putting in my parents' social security number and email address, right? There's 2 boxes here, but again, remember I said if both of your parents live in the same home, students only have to put one of the parents' information on here. The reason why they have 2 boxes on here is because this is for situations where, let's say my parents live in the same household, but they didn't file a joint tax return. They filed separately, so now I need to put both of my parents' information on here. Even though they live in the same household, they didn't file a joint tax return, so it's not able to kind of pull all of our information from just one. Another scenario where I would need to put 2 parents' information on here would be if my parent that I'm living with gets married or gets remarried, but they just got remarried or married recently. So the last time we filed taxes, though, I didn't file with this person. But now this person is in my household, right? So that person has to be included on the FAFSA because they're living in the household. That means that step parent. And so now, because at this point I would put in my mom's information, let's say, and my stepfather or step parent's information, I would need to put in his email and social security number so that they're able to pull that in. Once I kind of get that, I'm able to invite that parent to do their section, right? And that's basically what the student is doing here, which is why the email addresses are so important, because everything is sort of flowing through email, right? And so now I'm inviting my parent. My parents should get an email. Now, something that is happening with this new form is that there are some parents who are not getting an email address. There are some parents who are getting a delayed email from this process. And that is just, again, something that comes with this form being new, lots of different glitches and errors that are in the form right now. But that's only for students who are doing it for this year. If your student's not a senior, hopefully all these kinks will be all done by the time you do the application. Right now, some parents are not getting them. The only thing we are telling families to do right now, if you're not getting the email, you do have to wait until you get the email. I am hearing, again, a lot of parents may get them 2 days later or 5 days later, or whatever it is, it shows up in their email address. But that's how a parent is able to access the application. So once my parent gets the email, my parent is going to log in. And again, that's why they had to create an account, because they have to log in as well with their account creation that they had to do at the very beginning, that FSA ID. And that's how they're able to do the parent section of the form. The parent gets a consent form, just like the student, saying, we need to get your information from the IRS. Something that's a little different from sometimes with the student parent section is that they do ask if the parent received any type of federal benefits. And obviously, you don't have to try to figure out what they want. They have a list of benefits that you may have received. If you received any of those, you just put a check mark next to it. You'll see up here that they do have any time during, and usually, again, the income is based off of the prior year. Things like benefits and assets are connected to the current year. So you'll see the wording change a little bit from just 2022, it's going to say 2022 or 2023 for senior families this year. So you may be asked about sort of are you currently receiving benefits, or did you receive some in the prior year? If you didn't receive any of them, you'll just click none of the above and you'll move forward. Most of the information will hopefully be transferred from the IRS. You don't have to answer a lot of those income questions. A lot of them you won't even see, or they'll be grayed out. So you won't even be able to make any changes to what they transfer from the IRS. I did want to show you this form though, because this is something that shows the family's, the parent or that student's family size. They will ask you, how many children will be in the household that receives support from you, some type of financial support from you. The number that they will automatically be in there will be the number from that parent's tax return. This could be different. I wanted to show this because this is one of the few sections where you can actually change it, is to be able to change this number if it's different than what's actually in your household. So they do understand that there are families that they live in separate household. One parent may claim that student 1 year on their taxes, the other parent may claim them another year. So in order to be able to accurately report what's in your household that the student has reported that they live in that year, if that other parent claimed them, they could just change that number. So I wanted to show that because that is a common scenario for a lot of people who change who claims who on the tax return. They don't care who claims who as far as what parent you put on here. Again, you put the parent on there that provides the most financial support, but you can't go in here and change the family size if another parent claims them. And then also just know that they will ask a few asset questions, as I mentioned before. And assets are things that, and we all know what assets are. People ask me about, what assets do they want to know? You know what assets are, right? Investment accounts, any kind of stocks, any kind of college savings accounts, any kind of cash savings checking accounts, any kind of investment accounts that you have outside of retirement, outside of life insurance, right? Those are the ones that you're going to be reporting on here. They will ask you a little bit about assets. For some people, may get asked questions about assets for their business. So if you have a small business, you do have to report the asset value of your business. They haven't been very clear this year because, again, it just opened about what that means for a small business. Like what do you really want to know about my business? They haven't given us a lot of clarification about that right now. So what I'm telling senior families this year is that what they have said is they want to look at is if you were to sell this business, right? Even if you own it with other people, what would be your share or the assets for that business? Kind of just an estimation of that. So I want to put that there and mention that again, as the years go forward, they will definitely have more clarification. This is something that was a little bit new for this year as far as small businesses having to report asset information. And then after that section is done, the asset section, then parents are able to just sign and complete the application. And once the person that does it last, which is typically the parent, but the parent will sign and submit the application and it is done. So, of course, this new application is expected to be 30 minutes or less. That's the whole goal. Again, is just to try to make it a lot more user-friendly. A lot of families should get a confirmation. Congratulations. Yes, it's been complete. I am telling senior families this year to do a screenshot, definitely take a picture of this congratulations, this confirmation that your form has been submitted, because again, there's been a lot of glitches, a lot of errors with this new application so far. So I don't want you to have a situation where you have sent it to a college, but then they say they didn't get it, right? I want you to be able to have sort of this confirmation to be able to say, yes, I did, and this is the confirmation email or that I got at the end. What happens after this is they do send it to all the individual colleges. So your communication after you hit submit is not with this website after you hit submit. Your communication is going to be with the colleges that you had it sent to. And so they'll be the people that will be giving you a financial offer, right, to come to your school. So those will be the next people, and they kind of tell you what happens next from here. I just want to kind of say with this, because this application is new, if you are a senior family or a student, just want to kind of say some sort of caveats that are going to be different than other years. Colleges are not going to get access to a student who's a senior now, or if you're planning to go to the fall, start college in the fall, they are not going to start getting FAFSAs until the end of this month, which means essentially February. Beginning of February is when colleges will actually start to be able to get access to the form. So I'm saying that because I don't want senior students and families to be calling the financial aid office to see if they got your form. They don't know yet. You need to give them time to actually get them, which will be again around the first week or so of February. And that's when they'll start pulling in FAFSAs for this coming up fall. The other thing I do want to stress again is making copies of stuff. So copies of the confirmation page. And then also students are able to go back in and make changes. It's not final after you hit submit. Normally a student, once they hit submit, the next day they can usually go in and make changes. With this new form though, students are going to have to wait until February essentially to be able to go in and make changes. So if I did this and I forgot to put a college on here, I could log back in with my account creation and add a college. If my parent felt like they answered one of the questions wrong on here, they can go back in and make changes to it. But again, for seniors this year, they just have to wait until February to be able to go back in and make changes. So that's only a special, these are only special for this year. Again, if your student's not a senior, hopefully all of this will be all smoothed out and you won't have to worry about any of this. I just wanted to kind of remind you as to why we want you to do it. These are all the different funds that you're applying for. These are all the different types of aid that you're applying for. So essentially you're filling out one application and trying to see what you can get from the federal government, from the state, and from that college. And it could be a scholarship, it could be a grant, which is all free money. It could be a part-time job, which is work study, or they could also consider you for loans to help assist with the process of paying for college. So all of these things are by doing one application, which is why that one application is so important. And then just wanted to kind of mention here, because I do know a lot of parents ask about what their options are as a parent to pay. Obviously, because your information is on there, if your information is a part of the application, they also do have a parent loan option. So parents are given the option to take out a loan to help pay a balance for a college. So just wanted to let you see that there will be a parent loan option through this process. If you are looking to make sure you have enough to cover the bill, they'll always have that as an option for a parent. And then everybody is doing this so that they can get an offer. And so I just want you to be able to see this is what students fill out the form for so they can get an offer from a college. This year, again, is special. And so the normal time frame is that students start getting offers usually around March. April-ish is usually when the bulk of offers come in for colleges after they fill out the FAFSA their senior year, or you're an adult, you're filling out usually around that time frame. However, this year's special, so we're not exactly sure when students will start getting offers. Most colleges are hoping to start getting offers out by the end of March, April. But again, it's just going to depend on the school. And so I'm just telling students to again, be patient, and you can absolutely reach out to the college or check their websites to see when the financial offers will start to be issued. Because again, processing has been delayed a lot this year. And I like for students to also, and parents to remember that if your student is enrolled in college, you are eligible for certain tax credits. So we're going through a tax season now. We're getting ready to go into a tax season. So I always like to stress this part for families that may have someone in college. If you're in college, be sure that you qualify for any of the education tax credits, that you're taking advantage of those. You do have to be paying something, if you're paying anything out of pocket, essentially you're eligible for the credit if you're a student enrolled in college or if you're enrolled in college. So be sure you're taking advantage of those. And I just also wanted to kind of show here, these are some websites to visit after tonight. So if you have questions or you're just looking for more information, that's free. These are some really good websites to use. Definitely the student aid website, that's where that FAFSA is housed. So I will be exploring that site for sure. But there's lots of other websites that you can go to get free information to help you along the way. And if you are looking for other sort of webinar opportunities, we do have lots of things that are coming up this year for families across North Carolina. Or even if you're not in North Carolina, you can go to cfnc.org/events. And we do offer free statewide webinars all the time. In the month of February, we're going to be doing a lot about paying for college because that's on everybody's mind around this time of the year. So February will be lots of those. So if you want to register for any of those webinars, definitely go to the site for free. And if you have questions after today, definitely follow us on social media. And I don't give out my number or phone number because I don't do private consulting. But if you do have questions after today, we do have sort of social media pages that we've created so that people can message us. So after events like this, if you have a question, definitely like or follow or message me on Facebook or Instagram. It's Timeka at CFNC. You do have to spell out the AT. But that's, again, if you have questions after today. But we do have a call center that you can call if you have questions as well. But I will try to check the chat to see if there's any questions for anybody. I don't know if there's any questions that I didn't address, or if you wanted to ask them, you're definitely welcome to do so.
Yeah, I think there are couple questions in the chat. I will
Okay.
pull them up for you. So one of the questions, I'm not sure if you answered, it said, if you're enrolled with FAFSA 23-24, should you apply with the FAFSA 24-25? So do you need to fill out if you filled out the FAFSA 23-24, do you need to fill out FAFSA 24-25?
Yes, that's an excellent question. I'm glad you asked, because I did not say that this form has to be renewed every year. So yes, if you did it for 23-24, that was for this like past fall and spring and summer. But if you're planning to be in college also in the fall or spring or next summer, you need to do the 2024-2025 form also.
Okay, then another question is, if you're offered a scholarship during the academic year, will the scholarship apply to the next semester? And will you be refunded the additional funds that you awarded with the FAFSA, or will that take your FAFSA amount down?
That's a good question. So it depends on when the scholarship comes in, like what time it comes in the school year. Sometimes, let's say if it was a scholarship that came in right now and it's the spring semester, some of the colleges may go ahead and add it for the spring, so that they would make adjustments, right? So it will depend on what you currently have, will determine whether or not they're going to make adjustments. Not that they're looking to take something away, but they can't have what you've been offered, and like if you get a scholarship and what you've already have cannot put you over that cost of attendance. And that's why I kind of mentioned at the beginning why it's so important to know cost of attendance, because everything works through that. So if what you're being given, the scholarship, and what they've already offered you kind of keeps you within the cost of attendance they have set for their college, it may not be any adjustments. But if there is, they may make a few adjustments, and they do. They'll definitely do that. I would keep checking it every week after the scholarship is put on your account, because it could change at any time during the semester. So yes, definitely check with the financial aid office to see whether or not to make a change on your specific account.
Next question is regarding blended families. She said, my son lives with me and my husband. His biological father lives out of state. When the question is asked about marital status, are they asking about me and my husband or his biological father? And do all three of us need to submit our information on the FAFSA?
Yeah, so with the FAFSA, again, is whatever the parent that the student is living with. So it sounds like the student is living with, let's say, the mom and the step parent. That's whose information would be on the FAFSA, not the biological father.
Okay. And is the student considered a first-generation college student if only one parent graduated from college? Does it matter which parent the child lives with?
It doesn't matter, because one of the things they do ask, even though they just want one parent's information, if they just live, let's say I just put my mom's information on there, they will ask me some questions about my dad, just because they are looking for that type of information. So they won't ask for his income, but they will ask questions about, his highest education and all of that. And it's for that reason. So even though you don't have to put them on the FAFSA, they will ask some questions about the parent to see if you do qualify for first generation.
Okay. And if you're not sure what college you're attending when you're filling it out, can you add a college at a later date on the FAFSA?
Yes, you can. And like I said, this year is a little bit kind of wonky, so people have to wait till February to add colleges. But on a normal basis, yes, you can always log back in and go to the college section and add a college.
Okay. And what tax year is used for the 24-25 FAFSA? If it is 2022, is it possible to file for 2023 and use more recent information to file if there has been a change in income?
That's a good question. So for the 24-25 application, 2022 income information is what's required. However, if it has been a drastic change since 2022, you can contact the financial aid office of that college, and they have what they call professional judgment applications that you fill out where they can see if it will make a change or a difference. If whatever you explain to them on what the difference is, there's always a way to explain what has changed in a year or 2 years since you had to put that year's taxes on there. But contact the financial aid office of that college and they'll tell you the steps that you need to follow.
Okay. And the last question I see is, it says, is a deposit required to a school before they issue an offer or before they give an offer?
Yeah, and it depends on the school. Yeah, there are some deposits like housing and sometimes orientation. Just depending on the school, they may ask for a deposit before you even know what the offer is. And again, that's a conversation you want to have with that college. This is a special year, so some of them are given a little bit of leniency because people are waiting, right, for the offers. But there could be a deposit like a housing deposit or an orientation deposit that you do have to pay. That's not refundable before you get your offer.
Okay. And I think that's all the questions that I see in the chat. Does anyone else have any other questions that aren't in the chat? If you do, feel free to come off of mute. Okay, well, I don't see any other questions. Again, thank you so much.
You're welcome.
For
Thank
giving
you
this
for having
information
me.
and being willing to do this for us every year. Thank you so much.
You're welcome.
So that will end our program for today, and hopefully everyone was able to take something away from this very informative presentation. So thank you all and have a great evening.
Bye, everybody.